It looks like a constable pulling out there. Oh, yeah, they got an ambulance here as I arrive. Street theater skit. You can see they're loading somebody in the back there. But just as I arrive here, fake nonsense. Street theater. Just as I arrive, and then a constable pulling out there. Another constable there. Fake. Street theater nonsense. Now, notice how they're doing it right as I come down? They just loaded them in, and they're going to drive away just as I come down here. So watch this. It's all fake. It's all theater. Yeah, okay. Notice the timing there. Just going to pull it out now as I get here. One 7 2 4 3 9 2. Okay, anyway. See if they coordinate their pulling out here with my exiting. So they had two constables as well. One was upstairs there, and another one. And that was obviously, this is time for them to conclude this skit just as I arrived. So you can see it there. Not gonna go out and stand there because they're gonna leave any minute anyway. So. Okay, let's see if they pull out now, or something else pulls up here. Let's see. Yeah, so they just loaded them on. Literally, just as I came down the stairs, they were just closing the doors and loading the actor on. Because there's nothing that ever happens out there. They have to set up skits like that just to justify giving these constables, having them even working in their positions, because nothing happens at transit terminals in Ottawa. So, yeah. Anyway, there you go. A bit of theater there. Let's see here. We'll get more theater up here. Probably somebody will come and linger by the gates. Yeah, check it out now. Check it out right as I cross there. Yeah. The actors doing their performance there, theatrical performance. Let's get a round of applause for the actors and their wonderful work that they do. While people have to wait hours in hospitals for legitimate medical conditions, they're out performing skits like that. Anyway, these are the times we live in. I don't know who the heck he was. Leaves the building and walks down the way I'm gonna go, so that they'd have him walk in front of me, stalking biker here as soon as I leave. Let's see. That's your face too. And parking enforcement there right as I leave. Too. And parking enforcement there right as I leave. Yeah, stalking criminal biker there just as I leave. And all night last night they had these drug addict criminals driving back and forth around my workplace so that they could get their CSIS would give them their free drugs and whatever else they give them for harassing people. Here's a question to think about, something to think about. Here's something for the viewer to think about. Why do you think it is that they continue to build all these new condos when people can't even afford housing right now and the prices are sky high? Why would they be doing that if they know that they're not going to have people who are going to be able to afford it generally? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they have a system set up already where they're going to offer people free accommodation, provided that they sign on and become community-based agents, citizen snitches, etc. So they already have the system in place, and they've had it in place for many years. But now, as you can see, there'd be no reason to continue to build all these new condos and townhouses. And you'll notice specifically, they're all either apartments, condos, or townhouses. There's not a lot of new houses being built because they want property rights to be taken away. And the reason they want people all in either a condo or a townhouse is because or an apartment is because it's attached. You're always right next to the people around you, your neighbors, right? And that's because they have this slave system in place where they'll use people to stalk you, harass you, and do all of these things, same time exit entry, do noise harassment. They can do that very easily if you're in either a condo or a townhouse or an apartment. So that's why they want anyone who lives in like a rural area away from this nightmare slave system that they have set up in these smart cities, which are going to get much worse, by the way. They want those people out of their homes, and that's why they're burning down those forested areas. It's all pre-planned, and then what happens is the state comes in and pretends to be, the good guys, offering the people whose houses they themselves burnt down free accommodation in these condos or townhouses that they're putting up. And so if those people didn't know about it, the people whose houses got ruined, to them that would sound like a generous offer, right? But what's really happening is they're being forced into this slave system. And it is a slave system, that's no exaggeration. You see these people, they have to do exactly what they're told. Going out with phones, right at the exact moment somebody leaves, they have to do these assignments because they've agreed to be part of the system. And many of the people involved in it have been a part of it since childhood. They've been raised that way. It's generational, and it's been going on in this country for many years. But now it's reached the point where they want to force everyone into the system. So they don't want anyone living off-grid or away in any rural areas, and that's why they're intentionally burning down the forested area. And Freemasonry plays a major role in that. Most of the people involved in that are Masons. The fire department know all about it. They're right in on it. They're not trying to put the fires out. That's all
lives. Look at what they use them to do, to harass and stalk people. So you think they're really going to be involved in actually trying to stop that situation? They want it. They're Masons, and they've been promised, those people, the police, the fire department, all these people taking part in this order out of chaos agenda. All these Masons, he's wearing the usual, the plaid lumberjack shirt that they have to wear. That's the slave clothing too. They have to wear that too. That's another thing too. When they force you into these smart cities, first of all, you have to make some sort of a deal to sign on in order to get this free accommodation and the perks and benefits. So at the time, it might sound good if you're in a situation where, you know, housing is really unaffordable right now, and that's all by design too. They forced you into that situation, and then they come in and offer the fake solution, which just leads to more chaos, right? And so leads to the outcome that they want, the predetermined outcome that they want to achieve. And so they want, right now, the goal is to force anyone who lives away from these smart cities, to force them into these nightmare smart cities that they're setting up, where there's surveillance in all the homes, all these new homes that they're putting together. While some of these townhouses may look nice inside, rest assured, all of them have surveillance, all the new ones within them. And so that's the thing, is if you're in a condo or a townhouse, the neighbors can bang on the walls, you know, do noise harassment. If you're in a house of your own, what can they do? They can fly airplanes over the house, but beyond that, without really breaking the law. That's why they don't want you to be independent, and it's very important that people understand this, those people who live in rural areas. They're lying to you and deceiving you when they come through with these offers to try and make it seem like it's, you know, really generous of them to put you up in an apartment or a condo in these smart cities. You were living away from these cities for a reason, because you had sense, right? And they want to force you into these areas. It is all by design, it's all planned. Do not fall for any of this deception that these psychopath Freemasons are putting forth. They've caused all of this themselves. They're responsible. It's a military operation to burn down the forest in Canada, okay? And how they're doing it, whether it's energy weapons or whether they're actually having people light the fires, who can say, because everything in the media is lies. So they claim they caught someone doing it. That's just because people are waking up. So they have to claim that I mean, the police are fully involved in covering all this stuff up, and so is the media. So, but yeah, that's important to understand that. And they want to force you into these smart cities. And if you think it's bad now, wait 10 years. I'm serious. If you think this is bad here now, with the things they're doing, tracking people everywhere they go, harassing and stalking people who aren't a part of the system, it's going to get way worse. Oh, shoot, I got to run through the bus.
People breaking the law, bikers stalking bikers, things are getting into. You can see two different provinces that have these people showing up wherever I go, just stalking. So tonight, and then when I get to work, they'll have all night tonight. They'll have people driving back and forth in front of my workplace. Last night they had multiple groups, a group of like 6 or 7 people who went by just making extreme noise when people are sleeping in the area too. Like, it's, you know, it's after midnight and they're doing this, and the street would be ordinarily very quiet, because what's interesting is I saved on my body cam some of the footage from Monday night, because I record right through the night with my body cam, and that night, that was normal. That's what it would normally be like. There was hardly any traffic, not a lot after midnight. The last night was just abnormal. The usual biker gangs all back and forth. The same ones driving back and forth multiple times. And then as soon as I left work this morning, they had one of these thugs driving right up alongside me to harass and intimidate. And they work with CSIS. They get their free drugs for doing things like this, and some of them are off-duty cops who also want the free drugs as well, right? Because they're all a part of that as well. So I think that group of 6 or 7 people probably is either off-duty cops or military or whoever, and then the cops, they had them last week on the way to work, blocking off portions of the street. Although I only caught part of it with the footage, because they're positioned strategically, so it wasn't right out in front. So I had to kind of turn just to see them, and then others were further down the street. But anyway, they were doing the usual stage play where they blocked the street off for nothing. Okay, so when I first came to the realization of what some of this stuff was 4 years ago, June of 2021 was when I really woke up to it. During that time, they had this one Toronto cop who would keep coming by my workplace, showing up. The one cop in particular, and he introduced himself to me, and he was very friendly and whatnot. I've spoken about this before, but he basically, we had a whole bunch of problems with people trespassing at the properties where I worked. And I had a good paying job, and I was working for a property management company, and I was manager of security operations. Not like some contract security type of operation, but working directly through the company. So good pay, and I had accommodation, an apartment that was taken care of as well, on condition that I was on call for the company. So anyway, so I think it was 2020, the summer of 2020. Would it have been, or would it have been? Yeah, I think it was. Okay, so June of 2021, I woke up. So maybe it was. So maybe they sent him a while before. But anyway, they would send this Toronto cop to keep showing up, and he was friendly. He acted as if he was trying to help us with these problems, because I had reported to my employer that you know what, our security team, who I manage, were somewhat overwhelmed at times because we felt that we weren't getting adequate assistance from the police with regards to all these incidents that were happening. Because they had a respite center, essentially a large homeless shelter directly across the street. So naturally, unfortunately, there was a lot of drug use and problems that ensued as a result of that. So I reported all this to my employer. And then they said, well, we'll get in touch with the police, and we'll try and get them to play a more active role of assisting you. And I thought, okay, that's great, that's good, I appreciate that. So what happens is this one cop is sent to talk to me and kind of has a meeting with me so I could tell him my concerns about what was going on and how I felt that we were not receiving adequate assistance from the Toronto police. At that time, I thought that was just, some incompetence or something, or they, negligence. I didn't know it was purposeful and they were allowing these things to happen. I didn't know that these people were as corrupt as they were. I knew there was police corruption. I had no clue how extreme it was. So he comes and talks to me, and he seemed very nice, very friendly, and then he and his partner did start showing up, and they would ask me things about, okay, what can we do to assist, etc. They started showing up for a relatively short period of time, but what happens is, then he starts sending me these weird text messages on my work cell phone. He's like, hey, did you see me last night? Because the one night he's parked at the end of the street where they knew I would be going to check a building, and he and like a bunch of other people, presumably off-duty cops, were not in uniform, and they're all just standing in the middle of the street drinking beers. And they called to me and said, hey, do you want to have a drink with us? I'm like, no, I'm working, I'm on duty, I don't have no drink, I'm on duty. So anyway, this guy keeps showing up, Matthew, and one night he pulls up down to the end of that street where they knew I would be going, and he's on, of course, one of these motorcycles with the helmet on, because they wanted me to see that, because they knew they were going to be using these people. And as soon as I woke up, they started using these motorcycle gangs all the time. In fact, the very night after I woke up when I was working, one of them drove a bike so close to me he almost crashed it into me, and he did it intentionally. And I was so surprised by what happened, I didn't really react. I just stood there, and he almost slammed the bike into me, and then he turned quickly and went away. I couldn't see his face, and I wasn't recording at the time, because at the time I didn't know what would happen if I started recording. This was in June of 2021. So anyway, the cop wanted me to see that he was part of this thing with the biker gangs. That's how I know they're part of that too, and they're involved in that, and they're involved in stalking people in these biker gangs. Now, not all the people who they use to do that are cops, but some of them are off-duty cops and off-duty military. So then, of course, after I woke up to it, this guy conveniently stopped showing up and never saw him again. Never saw him again, and things got progressively worse, where they would send people intentionally to break into our buildings consistently, and the police would do nothing about it. The police basically knew these things were happening, the Toronto police, that is. So, I mean, these were things that were going on, and that cop, again, he wanted to show me that he was a part of these. He couldn't come right out and tell me, but he knew that they were going to be using these biker gangs to stalk and harass me continually wherever I go. And right then, once it started, they immediately, like I said, they had those biker gangs. The one guy almost ran his bike directly into me the night after I woke up to it. And if you listen to that video that I have with Roderick Russell, where he's talking about things that happened to him, he describes exactly the same thing, where one of these motorcycle people drove right up to him and almost crashed into him. So they use similar methods with this regard, and they use similar methods, and that's how I know he's telling the truth, because he describes all these things that I went through. It's exactly the thing. Same thing where my employer pretended these things weren't happening when I reported it to them at first. Same thing. This morning they had some woman. First of all, they sent some guy to walk the way I was going to go right as I was about to step out, because there's surveillance inside of where I'm working. Then, as I wait for a little bit, let him pass, they have a woman again. As soon as I step through the door, she's walking up right in front of me along the path, and then right as I get here, you can see this here, right? Ambulance position there. I'm not carrying a phone, so they had them waiting right there, obviously. See this here, right? Exactly what I said here. As soon as I get here, stalking bikers as soon as I get here. Wearing some type of, I don't know, some club vest or whatever too. That's all they do is stalk and harass people. And they get the free crack and net for doing it too. So there you go.